Hi, I'm Glenn Given from Games by Playdate, and that's Meg Crow, another person from Games by Playdate, and that's Colin, her brother, and Josh, her husband, and Matt, her friend. Well, our friend, all of our friends. But I convinced them to play rocket shipping for like 4 or 5 turns, and now we're going to quickly talk about how huge of a fucking failure it is. So, what is good about it, and go.
It's math. It's a math game.
I said it's an algebra game.
This is sort of like a Euro game. I
Yeah.
would describe it. Mostly Euro game.
No, it's all about, like, can you sell for more than what you buy? And that's just a math game. It's the same as modern art.
Yeah.
It is exactly like modern art.
Is modern art a good game?
I like it, but it's totally, like, if you can figure out the math, you win every time.
So I like the goal of this was
figure out the math, that's why I like it.
The goal of this, I think, when I was designing is that I want the value of goods to be predictive but complicated and dynamic enough that it makes it hard to guess that.
Because everything's moving, it does.
Yeah.
And because you don't know what the other players are doing, then I think that does add that different factor, so you can't just, like, count ahead.
Yeah. And because the first player turn moves around,
Yes,
like that's
that
one kind of edge on it.
Really changes it. When you're the first player, you have a huge advantage.
Yeah, but that's why the first player thing needs to move. Colin, what were you going to say?
I wasn't going to say.
You're like, no, this game is stupid and I hate
I
you
was
and everything.
agreeing with what Megan said.
So, Josh, do you think it does anything good or bad particularly?
Well, it does get pretty... It gets pretty chaotic in the middle because once the goods have dispersed... So it might... I don't know. It might be too... That might change too much. Because then in the middle of the game, the goods only regenerate each planet one per point, and then they move, and then so it gets a little muddy in the middle. But
yeah, I did find myself multiple times stopping and being like, "What does that planet produce?"
Yeah.
And then it is good because it's a deterministic way of having what the goods are worth. That isn't just random like card flips or something like that.
Yeah. Which again is like one of the things I really don't like about a lot of those Euro like path making games or trading games is they just randomly decide what shit is worth in a place, and you go there and you get that point randomly.
Right.
It doesn't have any sense of like a holistic market.
So I almost think though that there's too much emphasis put on the whole moving game. Like if there was a way to do more simple, because all that matters is you get from one planet to another, or you don't. And it seems like a very complicated mechanism for getting from planet to planet that doesn't really ultimately matter. Because you have this whole velocity thing and all that sort of stuff. When you could simply say that it takes 1 turn to get to a planet if it's so far away, and 2 turns if it doesn't.
I don't know. I think I just...
Because then if it's 3...
Yeah, because you're really trying to figure out the path, and then figuring out that path then helps you figure out the closest planets.
Yeah, and that's kind of like... Because I was thinking, like trading routes... You want to find the most efficient trading route.
Yeah.
And if something is constantly moving around, you want to be moving kind of in harmony with it, and that's going to, in the long run, pay off dividends because you're going to spend less fuel. And, like, ideally, the game would be relatively close, and it would be the person who actually was the most efficient user of fuel that wins. Like, that's what I'd like.
Potentially, but, I mean, when fuel's only 1, and we're buying things for 10 or 8... That one,
yeah, there's probably a price.
One doesn't,
situation.
And the fact that it was like, okay, well, you're selling for 8 and I'm selling for 7, that's like an automatic 5 difference right there. So the 1 doesn't really matter.
Okay.
You need space pirates too.
Well, I think I do want it to have that, but like this kind of clockwork needs to work first before you can add anything like that. But you're right. I think taking out taking out the velocity or taking out the trajectory stuff, at least the trajectory stuff, would probably help that a lot. Because there's already enough complexity figuring out the value of a good.
It is, and it's like, okay, well, if you can just spend velocity to get wherever you want, like there could be a real abuse of that because, like, I mean, 6 would only cost 2.
6 what? 6 velocity? Well, you'd start at 3, and it would cost you 2 more fuel to get up to that. Yeah.
Right. No, but I mean, like to replenish 3 fuel to replenish 6 fuel only costs
only
2.
costs you 2. Yeah.
And when the difference between what you're selling for and what somebody else is selling for is probably 2 anyway,
Yeah.
the 2 doesn't really matter.
So I was thinking that people were going to be burning fuel more liberally, and that they were also going to be not docking on planets every single turn.
Yeah.
Like that was like when I was first thinking about it, I thought we would be doing more like what me and Josh were doing at the end, where we would be taking a 2 or 3 turn trip to get a large payoff.
Right.
Which is generally what I do in a lot of those economic simulation games. Is I'd like find a relatively safe long route and just like hammer that.
But so like if you're looking for the most you could get is 50. So you could spend a couple turns getting 50, or I could spend 3 turns. Like you could spend 3 turns getting 50, and I could spend 3 turns getting 30 each turn.
Right.
And so that's way better for me.
The only reason I did that long path is because I was the last player for so many times. So that was the only thing available to me. If I had gone first, I would have been able to do the jumping.
But also
and so
later,
is why it's math. It's like okay, is this path worth
is the efficiency of this path
50? If not, don't do it. It's only worth it if it's worth if you're going to spend more time trying to get that 50.
Yeah.
Then and you could get less and accumulate the 50 faster.
So the other thing is, in a game that has a buy and sell phase that you go through, if you are going to have a buy and sell phase every round, each player needs to be able to. It's important for each player to be able to buy and sell every single round. So if you're not able to, it probably shouldn't have that kind of structure. Like maybe a different type of turn structure.
Like you should buy and sell at the end of your movement, basically.
Yeah, or something
Maybe
like that.
buy or sell or something. I don't know.
Yeah, you could just. I mean, really, there's no real. The only time that it matters, the order of buying and selling, is that if 2 people are at the same planet at the same time.
Right.
And that's relatively rare in this.
Is it? I'm wondering, like, because there was a lot of waiting, and I think that that's okay in a strategic game. Was there?
I would definitely like it to have less waiting.
Is there a huge reason why we couldn't be moving at the same time?
No, because you can't. Like at this stage of the design, there's no way to impact another person's movement.
Right.
Right. And
so like buying and selling is going to matter, but that's where
yeah.
like there can just be a little bit like, oh,
well,
you're
move
going
your dudes.
there?
Yeah, I
Well,
don't give a
hold
shit.
on, maybe
But
I'm going to turn around.
I think that the reasons that if we were both moving simultaneously, the reasons that you or I might change our movement in response to that is that if we were both carrying the same cargo,
Yeah.
That's the only time that would come up.
But then I think it's more of like a stare down. I don't know. That could have some interesting effects.
And why do we all have to start on Earth? Is that just your first idea?
That's just a lot of this is just like from the gut.
It might be better if we all start on our own planet.
Yeah, if we all had our own.
I feel like it would be a lot harder to balance the early game. I mean, I know that I don't know how if this could be balanced, but when you start going, well, if he starts all the way on the outside, like what are his advantages of he's gonna be moving kind of with the flow of the board because it moves in a certain direction. So he's going to get that bonus to his speed all the time. And is that going to end up paying off because he started outside? Or if you start in the center, or if you start in the center of the solar system, are you always going to be at a disadvantage because you're probably always going to be getting shittier prices?
Right. But the fact that we were all starting on Earth, it gave a huge advantage to the person who was going first. In that one round. Afterwards,
yeah, but he didn't do much better than we did.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
I mean, that might just be because, like, one reason or another. But like, Colin made very different early moves than me and Josh did, for instance, and we all have kind of wound up in the same space. Like, I haven't. Colin, did you spend the money Did you do your purchasing yet?
Yes.
So I didn't, and I'm at $55, and you're at...
Before I spend, I had 50.
Yeah, so we're, pretty close. I've got 4 fuel, you got 3 fuel.
I just spent 24.
And I like that. I think that's a good indicator.
There.
But, so, what needs to go away from this? Because the answer isn't adding more shit. That's definitely not the answer. The trajectory adjustments?
It's something with the trajectory.
Yeah, that should probably go.
It just needs a change. I don't know if it needs to go, but it needs to change.
I like the idea of it just because,
Yeah, I do too. I also love the idea of you're taking resources from plentiful planets and bringing it to planets that don't have it.
I think that
that's
like
really
that
cool.
the dynamic market pricing is really a
Yeah.
good idea.
I like that.
And that's definitely what I want to keep. And the fact that the value of the goods is determined by the board state at the time
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
it's right now it's complicated because of the fiddliness of the prototype pieces, but I think it could be done in a way that makes it more easy to just like see off the top of your head, like just
Right.
look at it, glance at it, and understand what the price is. And if that could be cracked, then it would be a much better model for determining like the price of a good in a pick up and deliver game than just like random card draw.
Right.
And once that's cracked, then you could start layering on player interaction stuff.
Yeah.
Have you also thought of trying to make some of the goods the same? Like,
Yeah.
if all the outer planets, like their good is gas, and then the
You could.
planets are like,
One of the things I was thinking about is stripping it down to 3, like the inner, middle, and outer planets. So there's basically only 3 different types of goods
well, I was thinking you could have Earth goods, which are technical goods, and then
or people.
and then like ore, and then like gas, or
Yeah,
something like that.
I had thought of
And
stuff
then-
originally when I was asking. Originally, I'd actually asked Dan to do research on this, like what's the orbital frequency of these planets to try and make it somewhat based off of reality, and and then to find out what like the most plentiful materials on each planet were, and so like what would be. Because obviously, if Pluto is made completely out of gold, that's going to be a great place to mine Pluto, even though it's super
If Pluto
gold.
was made out of gold, it would still be a planet.
Yeah, hell yeah. That would be a great place to mine gold, because even though it's far away, the value of it when you move it in. But who gives a shit?
promotes
about
the frozen gas,
You're a frozen gas.
mostly.
So yeah. So bringing down the number of materials would go a long way.
No, it's an idea.
The number of types of materials.
Just
I don't know
something
about
to think about, and not necessarily. You don't want to strip
It would
away
change
everything.
the game dramatically if you brought that down.
Yeah.
I like the number of materials. I just need better color differences.
It needs an easier way to
Yeah.
calculate them.
Yeah.
But, that's just prototyping. That's fine.
Yep. All right. Okay. Well, that's that. I don't know. I was gonna bring this to JiffyCon. I don't think I'm gonna bring it to JiffyCon anymore. Just because it's not. I had fun calculating through it, but I didn't have fun playing it. Right? Because it is like we're not really
I
interacting with
wanted
each
to
other.
keep playing. But, yeah, there isn't a lot of interaction.
Yeah. Like I got bored with it. I made it. I spent more time making it than enjoying playing it.
Okay.
Whatever.
I don't know. I think it has a lot of promise.
Yeah, maybe. I think it needs to be a lot less than it is right now. And then it can go
Some less,
someplace
some
interesting. Yeah. All right, that's that. So I'm going to shut this off.